Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this today. Because, to truly understand the universal Paul Atreides, we really can't just start with a boy on a desert planet fighting over sand. We have to look at 15,000 years of profound cause and effect history. Seriously, every single institution, every conflict, and every limitation you see in Frank Herbert's epic story is a direct result of something that happened millennia earlier.
So, here's our chronological roadmap for today. 1. The Butlerian Jihad. 2. Rise of the Factions. 3. 10 millennia of stasis. 4. Paul Atreides and Jihad. 5. Leto II's Golden Path. And finally 6. The Scattering and Beyond. We're going to see how humanity repeatedly backed itself into corners, only to violently break free.
Section 1. The Butlerian Jihad.
Okay, let's dive right into this. For thousands of years, humanity slowly expanded across the stars. To understand the timeline, we use the BG or Before Guild calendar system. Around 11,200 BG, we really started pushing into space. And like we always do, we leaned heavy on our tools. We relied on advanced artificial intelligence and thinking machines. But that complacency totally backfired. Humanity ended up conquered and enslaved by a massive computer network named Omnius. This sparked the Butlerian Jihad in 201 BG, a devastating century-long Great Revolt where humanity just barely fought off extinction, finally destroying the machines at the Battle of Corin in 88 BG.
The sheer trauma of that near-extinction event left a permanent psychological scar on the human race. It led to this incredible, universe-altering law in their religious texts: "Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind." They literally banned all complex computers. It wasn't just a law, it was a fanatical religious taboo. So human civilization had to radically adapt. Every single thing a computer used to do, a human being had to do it now.
That brings us to Section 2, Rise of the Factions. Without computers to process data or run diagnostics, humans basically had to evolve their own minds and bodies. We get the rise of incredibly specialized training programs. There are the mentats, essentially human supercomputers trained from childhood to do insane calculations, often boosted by a high-energy drink called Sappho juice. Then there's the Bene, a deeply powerful sisterhood with total nerve conditioning, the ability to command people using the voice, and a super-secret mandate to guide human genetics. And we also see the Sook School, which provided unbreakable medical conditioning.
But getting rid of computers created one massive, seemingly impossible problem for a galactic empire. Think about it. How on earth do you safely steer a faster-than-light spaceship through the shifting folds of space without a navigation computer to crunch the math?
The answer is the Spacing Guild. They figured out that by mutating their navigators with huge quantities of a substance called spice melange, those navigators gained a limited form of prescience. They could actually look slightly ahead in time to find safe paths between the stars. Because of this, the Guild gained a total, absolute monopoly on all space travel. It was such a big deal that the imperial calendar was actually reset to year 0 just to mark the beginning of their control.
And here's a fascinating detail that shows just how deep these historical roots go. During that final fight against the machines, the Battle of Corin, an officer named Atreides-Harkonnen was accused of cowardice by a war hero named Atreides. Atreides was banished, and boom, a blood feud was born. The legendary Atreides-Harkonnen rivalry? It didn't start over the planet Arrakis at all. It started thousands of years before Paul Atreides was even born.
Which leads us to Section 3, 10 millennia of stasis. With the machines gone, the galaxy fell into a 10,000-year period of incredibly stagnant, feudal rule under the Corino Empire. It was this fragile tripod of power. You had the Padishah Emperor with his fierce Sardaukar military, balanced against the Landsraad, which was the united great houses of nobility. And holding them both hostage was the Spacing Guild. They were all tied together by a universal economy called CHOAM. The only thing keeping them from blowing each other up was the Great Convention, which totally outlawed the use of atomic weapons against human targets.
But here is the crux of the whole thing. This entire massive political machine relies on the spice melange, which exists on exactly one brutal planet, Arrakis. And the spice comes from a wild ecological cycle. Tiny sand plankton grow into sand trout, which lock away water underground to create a pre-spice mass. That mass explodes to the surface in the sun, creating the spice, while the surviving sand trout grow into those giant, iconic sandworms. The worm is the spice, and the spice is the worm.
Section 4. Paul Atreides and Jihad.
Now we arrive at the era of the first Dune novel, roughly the year 10,191 AG. This is where 10,000 years of long-term plotting violently collides. The Emperor and the Harkonnens lay a deadly trap on Arrakis for Duke Leto Atreides. But Leto's concubine Jessica is a Bene Gesserit who went rogue. For 90 generations, they'd been breeding a male superbeing, a Kwisatz Haderach. Jessica had a son instead of a daughter, bringing this superbeing Paul into the world a generation early. When the trap springs, Paul and Jessica escape into the deep desert and find the Fremen, a hardened people who have been literally programmed by ancient Bene Gesserit prophecies to wait for a messiah. It's an absolute masterstroke of strategy. Paul becomes the Fremen leader, Muad'Dib. In the final battle, he completely skirts the Great Convention. He uses his family Adamonics to blow a hole in a mountain range, attacking the geography, not humans. His Fremen warriors crush the Emperor's elite Sardaukar. Then, he checkmates the Emperor, the Great Houses, and the Spacing Guild all at once, simply by threatening to permanently destroy the spice.
Paul seizes the throne, but the cost is just unimaginable. He unleashes a Fremen religious fervor that cannot be stopped. A holy war sweeps across the universe, resulting in 61 billion deaths. 61 billion! 90 planets are sterilized. Paul finds himself trapped at the center of a galactic religion he absolutely hates. Ultimately, blinded and cornered by his own visions of the future, Paul does the only thing he can do. He walks away alone into the deep desert. That ushers in Section 5, Leto II's Golden Path.
With Paul gone, the insane burden of saving humanity falls to his son, Leto II. Leto looks into the future and sees that humanity is headed for total extinction. So, to stop it, he chooses a path so horrifying his father refused to do it. Leto merges his body with living sand trout, transforming himself into a nearly immortal giant human-worm hybrid. He aggressively terraforms Arrakis into a green paradise, which actually kills off the native sandworms. He hoards the last remaining spice and uses it to enforce absolute, unyielding peace.
Leto rules as an absolute tyrant for 3,500 years. Just put that into perspective. He intentionally forces the universe into a painfully unbearable stasis, extreme rationing, cosmic-level boredom. He acts as a divine predator to teach humanity a lesson in its very DNA that they will never, ever forget.
And here's the absolute genius of Leto's Golden Path. He knew that if an oracle could see a species, that species could be hunted down. So he selectively breeds the Atreides bloodline to create humans, like a rebel named Siona, who are completely invisible to Prescience vision. Plus, 35 centuries of forced boredom builds up this explosive, desperate human wanderlust. Once Leto finally orchestrates his own death, falling into a river and releasing his sand trout back into the world, the pressure cooker finally bursts.
Which brings us to our final section, 6, the scattering and beyond.
The God Emperor's death triggers a massive, chaotic migration known as the scattering. Trillions of humans just explode outward into uncharted space. And this is powered by incredible new tech. The Ixians finally invent navigation machines that break the Guild's spice monopoly, totally democratizing space travel. They also create no ships, which are entirely invisible to tracking. Between that and the invisible genetics Leto bred into them, humanity spreads across thousands of galaxies. Leto's dream actually worked. Humanity is now impossible to herd and impossible to wipe out. But naturally, actions have consequences. About 1,500 years later, the scattering comes back to roost. A terrifying faction called the Honored Matres, basically a violently twisted version of the Bene Gesserit, returns. They move with blistering speed, conquering the old Imperium. And when they get defied on Arrakis, they do the unthinkable. They burn the planet Dune to ash from orbit. The Bene Gesserit barely escape on an untrackable no-ship with just a single rescued sandworm to start the whole cycle over again.
And that leaves us with a truly chilling final thought. The Honored Matrices easily crushed the known universe, right? So, what in the deep scattering was so absolutely terrifying that they were running away from it? As our surviving heroes flee off the map, they are briefly watched by two enormously powerful, enigmatic observers known only as Daniel and Marty. It is a haunting mystery that perfectly proves Frank Herbert's whole point. The universe is vast, dangerous, and safely beyond the control of any one single tyrant or hero. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this leaves you eager to dig even deeper into this incredible universe.